Hey guys, what is up? So, a lot of you may know me as Rismus or Mark, but today I'm coming to you from the first time as Boozy and Bezeled, and I'm very, very excited for this endeavor. I've been wanting to make YouTube videos on stuff for a while, and one of the recent loves of mine has been whiskey. With an E, without an E, just whiskey. That golden nectar I've loved. And my collection has exponentially exploded, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity. Sit back, enjoy some whiskey, and just talk. Let's just have a conversation. So I'd like to tell a little bit about who I am, what I do, why listen to me, why watch my channel, things like that. So one of the questions, let's go into the first thing. Boozy and Bezeled, where did the name come from? I'm a huge watch guy. So bezel on the watches. Boozy, well, we all understand that. So how did I get into all this whiskey? So I've always been semi into bourbon. I've been drinking bourbon since I was a wee lad. Oh yeah. And I never really experienced and knew that there were so many types of bourbon or just whiskey. Well, bourbon really at the time. And I was too, I was in high school and college. I couldn't afford, first of all, and I couldn't, especially in college, I could not afford nice bourbon. So I was buying Jim Beam, things like that. My Old Forester, anything that was under 28 bucks. I did have a bottle of Buffalo Trace one time, which if you would have told me back then that the Buffalo Trace in general was going to become as scarce, I would have been buying them all. And so I've always been a big bourbon fan. Scotch, not so much. And now Scotch is definitely more my, Scotch is definitely my love. And that story starts semi-recent. So 2019, I went to Scotland with my girlfriend and her family. When you're in Scotland, what do you have to do, right? Gotta try Scotch from the motherland, right? So we go to the bar, my girlfriend's dad and her uncle, and we're sitting there and we're like to the bartender, hey bartender, yo, we're American. We don't know anything about Scotch. Hook us up, teach us your way, sensei. And she was just like, yo, I got you guys. And she got us. So she comes over to us and she hands us this flight, and she lays out the beautiful bottles on the table, and she's like, this flight you guys are gonna like. It's a little bit of everything. You have your non-peated, your slight peated, and then you got your peated. Although it was a lowland, it was still heavily peated. And she goes, let's work our way through the regions, and let's explore your taste buds a little bit. So she gives us the glasses and she tells us all to sniff it, take a sip, things like that. Add a little water. We did the whole nine. And the three that she gave us was the Baroque Latte Classic Latte, and everyone knows that from that beautiful teal or Tiffany blue bottle. And so that is unpeated or non-peated, and so that's the first one we tried, and wow, that was really good. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, whoa, and my girlfriend's dad and her uncle are like, wow, this is good, like we can do this, like this is nice. So then we finished that, and she's like, all right, let's step on up. Come on boys, step on up, let's go. Next up, the one and only Benroll McTed. So she puts the Benroll McTed on the table and she's like, this is peated, so be careful. So we sniff it, we smell that peat, and I'm just like, whoa, Nelly, hold your horses. This is, I jumped in. This is. So I sipped it and I was like, wow, this is pretty good. This is nothing. This is nothing. I just remember that, and it was good. And then we stepped up to the Isla Bay Sweet Smoke, and that was it was a whole nother level. Right, it was the release 1.2 if I remember correctly. They were all good. You know, the Isla Bay I was a little unsure of at the time, but something that really hasn't had peat. You know, the Benromic 10, that was great. Give me the peat, and I'm like, whoa. So that's that. I was in Scotland touring around. It was a blast. If you have not been to Scotland, you need to go. But anyways, that cliff, explode. Yeah, that was me. Just jump, boom, explode. Yeah, that cliff was bad. So whatever. Get on the plane, very sad. Go home, very sad. Say to myself, I have a liquor store in my apartment complex. It is dangerously amazing. And walk downstairs and I go up to my guy, TJ. TJ, yo, I need a scotch. He's just like, oh, buy this. I'm like, that's way too expensive. And he's like, all right, buy this. I'm like, that's still too expensive. And I'm like, all right. And he was like, oh, you know, I'm like, I had these 3 distilleries. And he's like, oh, I got Classic Lottie here, and I have Benromic here. I have 10, and I have the organic. And I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be challenging. So I did not buy the Benromic 10. Yeah, weird, right? And I bought the organic. And I'm like, this is something else. Let me try this. I had the 10. I loved it. Let me try the organic. So I pick up the organic. It's very delicate and sweet, and I'm like, oh, you know, Scotch is good. Scotch is real good. And then he says that weekend they're having a Scotch tasting, and I'm like, oh, of what? He's like, Lafroig, and I'm like, Lafroig? What's Lafroig? Just kidding. I knew what Lafroig was, and he's just like, yeah. And he's like, you want to come down to it? And I'm like, oh, all right. Lafroig now, that's a whole nother level. So I call up my girlfriend's dad. Hey, Mr. D, guess what? Lafroig tasting downstairs this Saturday. Let's go. And he's like, oh yeah, absolutely, let's go. So we go. We walk in, the reps are cool as hell. And they have this little bar set up and all the Lafroigs out, and they're like, oh, you guys into scotches? And we're like, well, sort of. We had scotches last week in the motherland, and we had these, and we liked them, and we don't know what else we really like. And they're like, well, this is perfect. So they walked us through the core Lafroig line, you know, the quarter oak, the quarter oak, the 10-year-old. God, it's slipping my mind, the other one we had there that night. It was, you know, simple flight. And we ended at the Lafroig 10. The quarter oak was delicious. I loved it. I don't have one in my collection. I'm gonna have to change that. And the Lafroig 10. So it's in my glass now. I'm gonna reenact the whole thing. So I sniff it. I'm like, whoa. Oh, wow. This is something else. And my girlfriend's dad pretty much did the same thing. And we both kind of look at each other like, oh, what did we get ourselves into here? Oh, whoa, all right. I can do this. So we take a sip. And I'm just like, whoa. You know that meme of like, it zooms in on the kid and his eyes get big and then his head explodes? Yeah, that was me. I literally had a vision of grass, right? Who doesn't just chew on grass? And I got the brine, the grass, the sea. My mind just made me think I was literally sitting on the rough, rocky edges of Scotland and taking in the scents and the smell and the taste and just sitting there enjoying a fresh dram of Lafroig. And that is what my mind made me think. And I'm like, wow, this is it. It brought me back to the Highlands. Driving through the Highlands, smelling the ocean spray coming in against the cliffs and the peated bogs and that all those scents this glass gave me because I had experienced it without this. And this is what brought me back. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, I can do this. So I went to the Lafroig 10. And now every scotch I have is absolutely probably amazing. Some of them aren't good, but you know, I like all of them. In the bourbon worlds, I love the barrel proofs, and I just like all the scotch, all the whiskey, from the Blantons, to the Buffalo, to the Stag, to the Elijah Craig, to the Wilderness Trail, to Old Elk, to New Riff. I want to try it all. I want every bottle. I don't have room for that yet. And if I drag home more bottles, I will literally be thrown out my apartment window, and I'm pretty high up, so that will hurt, but it's okay. It will be worth it. So that is who I am. I love whiskey, and I love scotch, and I love bourbon, and this will be fun. I'm very excited. I hope to bring some videos from distilleries. I do have some connections at some cool distilleries, and I'm hoping to bring you that. I'm hoping to bring you videos from Scotland next year. I was supposed to be in Scotland last year, so I was supposed to be in 2019, 2020, 2021. 3 years in a row, I was supposed to go back for a nice long trip. Because of COVID, that didn't happen last year. We decided to postpone it this year, and so that's 2 years of trips now that are postponed to 2022. So 2022 is going to be a great year. And I will have a nice 2-time events in Scotland. So I can't wait. I've made so many good friends in the whiskey, from Instagram and online and YouTube, and yeah. Well, cheers, guys. Have a good night, and I look forward to doing this more and more with you guys, and I'm very excited. Nervous, as you can tell from my first video, but this will be fun.